The red sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the dry wasteland. The land was broken, cracked ground, burned trees, and the remains of a battle. Long forgotten wind blew fine gray dust over the wreckage. All was silent until the footsteps came. A human man wearing a torn suit and a dusty helmet moved carefully over the rocks. His name was Daniel Cross, an explorer and mechanic. He wasn't part of any army, he didn't carry orders or medals, he just fixed old ships and tried to survive. His scanner beeped softly in his hand. Life form detected. Week 37M northeast. Daniel stopped. Life form out here. He turned and followed the signal, stepping over twisted metal and bones. As he walked, the beep grew louder. Faster. He reached a small crater. Something had crashed there, and in the center he saw her, an alien girl. She was lying face down, half covered in dust. Her skin was smooth and glowing, a pale silver blue with dark blood dried around a deep wound in her side. Her clothes were torn, armor cracked, and her breathing was faint, barely there. A strange broken device blinked weakly on her wrist. Daniel's eyes widened. What the hell? He whispered. He looked around. No movement, no signs of traps. Still, his instincts told him not to touch her. She could be dangerous or maybe bait. But then she moved just a little. Her hand twitched, her head turned slightly, and she groaned. That sound, it wasn't a soldier, it wasn't a trap, it was pain, real pain. Daniel sighed. Why is it always me? He knelt beside her and gently turned her over. She gasped, eyes fluttering open. For a moment her eyes were large, glowing violet, filled with fear and confusion. She didn't speak, just stared at him. Then her hand grabbed his wrist weakly. But please, she said in a soft, broken voice. Daniel blinked. He didn't understand her language fully, but that one word, he knew she was asking for help. Without wasting another second, he picked her up in his arms. She was light too. Light like a bird with broken wings. Blood dripped slowly from her side. Daniel gritted his teeth and hurried back to his wrecked shuttle, praying the medbay still worked. The sun dipped lower as Daniel entered the half-destroyed shuttle. The lights flickered when he kicked the door closed. He laid her down on the medical table and connected a translator device to her wrist, hoping it might sync the machine. Word scanning her vitals, multiple fractures, internal bleeding, vital signs unstable. Daniel grabbed his emergency kit. He injected a universal stabilizer into her neck. Her body jerked slightly, then relaxed. Her breathing became deeper. You're lucky, he muttered, or maybe I am. He worked fast, cleaning wounds, sealing cuts with bio gel, removing broken armor pieces. She didn't wake up, but she didn't die either. Hours passed. Night fell over the wasteland. Daniel sat near her, drinking from a metal flask. The alien girl lay still, chest rising slowly with every breath. The translator finally buzzed. Connection established. Basic speech compatible. He leaned in. Hey, he said softly, can you hear me? She blinked. Her eyes opened again. This time she looked at him, truly looked. Her lips moved slowly where Daniel smiled faintly. Safe for now. She tried to sit up, but cried out in pain. He quickly stopped her. Don't move if you're hurt bad. Her eyes softened. There was fear in them, but also something else. Maybe hope, maybe confusion. She whispered something in her own language, but the translator caught only fragments. Abandoned, killed, mission failed. Daniel frowned. Who left you here? She didn't answer. Instead her eyes rolled back. She fainted again as Daniel checked her pulse. A chill ran down his spine. His scanner beeped again. New signal detected. Unknown tech closing in. He looked at the screen. Something was coming, something not human, and now he wasn't alone anymore. A sharp knock echoed inside Daniel's shuttle. Not a sound, not a beep. A knock. Daniel grabbed his weapon and moved to the door. Silently he peered through the cracked screen. Nothing but sand, wind, and shadows. The scanner still glowed red, still tracking movement. He whispered, but nothing on visual behind him. A small noise made him turn. The alien girl was sitting up barely. Her silver blue skin still looked pale, and her arm trembled as she held on to the side of the medbed. Her eyes were wide, afraid. Alert. Who are you? Daniel asked softly. She flinched but didn't answer. Can you understand me? He said again, slower this time. Her glowing violet eyes watched his lips move. Then she nodded slowly, a faint signal of understanding. The translator buzzed on her wrist. Language processing sync. Daniel took a breath. Can you tell me your name? The girl looked down. Her lip trembled. Her fingers touched the mark on her collarbone. 3 faded lines that looked like a burned tattoo. She whispered something in her own language, and the translator tried its best. No name. Erased. Daniel's expression changed. Erased. She nodded once more. Her voice came out broken but clear now. My name was taken. I failed them before he could ask more. She gasped in pain. Her hand clutched her ribs. Daniel rushed over and supported her back gently. Easy, you're still healing. Her body leaned Into him briefly soft cold and shaking, but she pulled back quickly. She didn't trust him, and yet she hadn't tried to escape either. Over the next hour Daniel gave her water and food, soft fruit paste and protein gel. She didn't touch it at first, but hunger won. She ate slowly with shaking hands. Daniel sat across from her, studying. She looked young, maybe his age, but clearly not from any species he'd seen before. Her limbs were long, graceful. Her hair shimmered like ink in moonlight. There were scars on her arms, old ones. Why were you left there? He finally asked. The girl stared at the floor, then whispered, because I wasn't useful anymore. Daniel's jaw clenched. She continued, I was a scout. My mission failed. I was wounded. They said I slowed the others, so they left me to be cleansed. He didn't understand. Cleansed? She glanced at the door outside. The wind howled and a mechanical were passed near the shuttle. Her voice was hollow. The machines, they come after the battle to clean the land. No survivors. Daniel felt a chill. The knock earlier, the red signal. They were still being hunted. Why didn't they kill you immediately? He asked. She looked at him with something like shame. Because I begged. Night deepened. The shuttle lights dimmed to red. Daniel checked the scanner again. 3 signals circling nearby, just outside sensor range. He turned back to her. You can't stay here long, he said. She nodded. I know you need a name, he added. I can't keep calling you Hay. Her lips twitched the smallest hint of a smile. Daniel paused. What about Aaron? The girl blinked. Aaron? She repeated softly. What does it mean? He shrugged. It doesn't mean anything. It just sounds like you. She tilted her head, confused, but then nodded. Then I am Aaron. It was a small moment, but Daniel knew what it meant. She was choosing to live again. A sudden flash lit the window. Daniel jumped up. His screen flickered with a new warning. Proximity alert. Hostile unit detected. Aaron's whole body tensed. They found us, she said. How many? Daniel asked. She didn't need to answer. The scanner showed 4 red dots moving fast. Get down, he ordered, grabbing his blaster, but Aaron didn't move. She stared at the light, eyes wide with fear and memory. She whispered, they burn everything. No mercy. No one survives. Daniel turned to her, not angry, not afraid, just firm. You will, I promise you that. He moved to the door, weapon raised. Aaron watched the human who had saved her step into danger for her again. And for the first time in her broken life she began to hope. The shuttle lights dimmed to red as power-saving mode kicked in. The outside wind had stopped, but that wasn't a good sign. Silence wasn't peace on this planet. Silence meant predators were near. Daniel moved to the window and peeked through a slit in the metal. He could see nothing. Just the outline of broken rocks and dust rising strangely, too smooth, too steady, like it was pushed by something invisible. He checked the scanner. The dots had moved. They're circling us, he muttered. Fast and quiet behind him. Aaron sat up straighter. Her hands were clenched, her eyes fixed on the door like she could already hear the machines. Don't shoot them, she said in a hoarse voice. They track heat and sound. Daniel gave a dry laugh. So how do I stop them? Whisper at them to go away. But Aaron wasn't joking. They are not built to be stopped. They're built to finish. The red lights outside the shuttle flickered again, brief glows between the shadows. Then came the sound Daniel dreaded, a metallic clicking, sharp, cold, and very, very close. Daniel ducked low and reached under his seat for an old jammer, a field device he barely remembered fixing weeks ago. He slapped the switch. It sparked once, twice, then glowed blue. This should scramble their sensors, he said. Aaron nodded weakly. It will work for 1 minute. Then let's pray that's enough. Suddenly something landed hard on the roof. Both of them froze. The metal groaned. Then the sound of sharp limbs scraping against the shuttle skin echoed above them. A long, high-pitched beat pierced the silence. They're scanning us, Aaron whispered. If they detect me, they'll tear this place apart. Daniel moved quickly. He pulled a heat blanket from the supply box and threw it over her. Lie still. No breath, no sound. She obeyed without question. Daniel crouched by the door, gun in hand, heart pounding. He knew this Model X Unit 7's cloaked hunter drones, ex-military tech. They didn't miss. Outside, the door suddenly clicked slowly, mechanically. They had found the latch. Daniel didn't think. He acted. He hit the jammer's override and sent a powerful burst through the air. Instantly the drone on the roof let out a sharp metal shriek, a distorted signal, and fell off the shuttle. The door slammed back shut as another red light blinked near the window. Daniel fired once, direct hit. The drone burst into sparks and black smoke, but it wasn't over. The scanner now showed 2 more units running toward the shuttle. Daniel ran to the cockpit. He slammed his hand on the emergency engine ignition. The ship sputtered, groaned, and powered on. Barely. Lights flickered, systems hummed. The noise would draw them faster, but it also reactivated the auto turret with a loud Click. The external cannon rotated outside, locking on a moving target. Boom. One drone exploded mid-run. The last one stopped, then leapt into the air, landing directly on the windshield with a screeching crack. Its red eye glowed, staring at Daniel face to face through the glass. For a moment the two locked eyes, man and machine. Then it raised its blade before it could strike. A strange pulse of energy shot from behind Daniel. He turned in shock. Erin had dragged herself forward and activated the small device on her wrist. It emitted a soft hum followed by a ripple in the air. The drone on the windshield screamed, its metal shaking violently, and exploded in a wave of sparks. Daniel looked at her, stunned. What the hell was that? Erin collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. It's what they were after. She held up her wrist. The device was glowing brightly now. Symbols flickered across its surface. Alien, ancient. This is not a weapon, it's data, secrets they fear. Daniel stared at her. You were marked for death because of that. She nodded. It's proof of something they wanted erased. My people didn't want me to survive with it. The shuttle creaked again, but now only from the wind. The drones were gone for now. Daniel helped her back to the bed. He wrapped the blanket tighter around her. You're not going to die here, he said softly. Not while I'm breathing. Erin looked at him, eyes shining in the dim light. Why do you care? Daniel didn't answer at first. He simply looked away, then whispered, because no one cared when I needed saving. Either smoke still lingered in the air. The destroyed drones outside the shuttle left black scars on the ground, but inside it was quiet again. Too quiet. Daniel sat beside Erin, wrapping fresh cloth around her arm. Where shrapnel had sliced her, her breathing was steady now, but her skin was cold, not from blood loss but fear. The glowing device on her wrist was dim again. Whatever it had done, it had drained her. Daniel had questions, many, but he didn't want to push her until she looked him in the eyes and said, "You deserve the truth." She pointed to the device on her wrist. This holds knowledge my people are afraid of. If it spreads, their power ends. Daniel raised an eyebrow. So you're some kind of whistleblower? She didn't understand the word but continued. Our leader said Earth was nothing weak, too chaotic to survive in the galaxy, but they were wrong, so very wrong. She slowly tapped the device. A small hologram flickered to life between them, faint but clear. It showed humans fighting, winning, not just surviving, dominating enemies twice their size, outnumbered, under-equipped, but still victorious. They called you animals, she whispered, but when they met you in battle they panicked. Daniel stared at the images. Where did this come from? Erin hesitated, then said, from the dead. She explained it slowly. She had been part of a recovery team sent to an old battlefield, one that had been wiped clean by order of the High Council. No survivors, no evidence, but they found something that wasn't supposed to be there, a buried escape pod still intact. Inside it, an alien warrior who had defected, dying but not silent. He had recorded everything. The pod contained the last broadcast of a secret human mission, one that had destroyed an elite alien fleet with just a handful of fighters. The alien had defected after that warning that war with humans could end their entire empire, but her leaders didn't want peace, they wanted silence. Erin paused, her voice shaking. When I returned with this knowledge I was marked as infected, tainted. They said I should be forgotten. Daniel clenched his fist. So they sent you to die? She nodded. I tried to run. I didn't get far. Daniel looked down at the device. So this, it's not just a memory, it's a weapon of truth. Erin smiled faintly, and truth is what they fear most. Suddenly the shuttle trembled. Daniel jumped to his feet. Not again, but the scanner didn't show drones, it showed a ship, not alien but human. Daniel's eyes lit up. Rescue? But Erin didn't look relieved, she looked terrified. They'll take the device, she whispered. Your people, they might destroy it too if it brings war. Daniel stood silent for a moment. She was right. This truth could unite the galaxy or burn it down. He knelt beside her. I don't care what's on it, you were left to die for speaking the truth. I won't let anyone erase that. Erin's voice softened. Even if it means standing against your own kind. Daniel looked at the doorway, the hum of the incoming ship growing louder. Then he looked at her especially. Then suddenly the shuttle lights flickered again. The device on Erin's wrist started blinking faster than before. She gasped. What's happening? Daniel asked. She gritted her teeth. It's waking up, it senses proximity. Maybe your tech, maybe the truth wants to be seen. Daniel grabbed his toolkit and scanned the device. Lines of alien code flashed across the screen. Then one word translated: activation, memory release. Daniel's eyes widened. If the device completed its activation, the secrets would be broadcast, not just stored, not just to him, to everyone. He looked at Erin. Do you want this? She blinked slowly. I don't know, but I'm tired of hiding. The ground shook gently beneath them, not from bombs, not from drones, but From engines real ones, a human rescue ship was landing nearby. Daniel stood near the shuttle door, his hand resting on the control panel. Erin sat on the edge of the medbed, the glowing device on her wrist now pulsing steadily. She looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. If they take me, they will take the truth too. Daniel didn't answer. He was thinking fast. If the humans found her now, an alien girl with sensitive data, they might not care that she was a victim to them. She could be a threat, or worse, a weapon, and the device on her wrist, they'd take it apart. Before listening to what it had to say, he moved toward her. We're not going with them, he said calmly. We're leaving. Erin blinked. But how? He gave a small, crooked smile. On foot across the dune corridor, there's an old emergency beacon tower about 20 clicks east. If we reach it, we can send a controlled message, not a broadcast. Just to the right. People. Erin's eyes narrowed. The corridor is dead land, no water, no shelter. Daniel grabbed a bag, slinging it over his shoulder. Then we better move before it wakes up. Minutes later, they slipped through a small hatch in the shuttle's belly. Sand whipped at their faces. The red sun had begun to rise again, marking the second day since Daniel found her. Behind them, the human ship landed. Soldiers fanned out, but they were already gone. The dune corridor was worse than Erin remembered. Dry winds screamed through the rocky canyons. Heat waves shimmered in the air, and strange bones, large, sharp, jutted from the ground like teeth. War machines lay buried under sand dunes, their limbs sticking out like skeletons. They moved slowly. Erin leaned on Daniel more than she liked, but her legs still shook. Her wounds were not fully healed, and the device's energy drain left her weak. Still she walked because the human beside her hadn't given up. At noon, they rested beneath a broken transport engine half buried in the sand. Daniel offered her water. She took it. Then after a moment she asked, why are you doing this? You could have left me a dozen times. Daniel looked at the desert ahead. You think I haven't been left before? Erin tilted her head. He continued quietly, when the mines collapsed on my team, the company said we were dead, left us buried, but I crawled out. Only me. Since then I've never walked past someone left behind. She said nothing, but her fingers gripped the bottle a little tighter. That night they camped beneath a fallen bridge. Erin sat wrapped in an old human blanket, staring at the stars. They always look the same, she said, but nothing ever stays the same. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Deep thought. She glanced at him. Your jokes are bad. He laughed quietly. Then silence again. She turned toward him. You're not like the others. He shrugged. I'm just a guy trying not to die. She shook her head. No. You see people. You saw me, not just my wounds, not just the data. Me. Daniel didn't know what to say, so he just said the truth. You're hard to ignore. The next day the journey got worse. A storm rolled in, sharp winds, burning dust, and flashes of lightning in the distance. They covered their faces and pushed forward step by step, but by evening Erin collapsed. Her body hit the ground with a dull thud. Daniel rushed to her, panic rising. Erin, hey, come on, she groaned weakly, too tired. Daniel lifted her into his arms. She was burning up. The device on her wrist was glowing brighter than ever. He checked it, flashing red energy surge. Data unlocked 97%. It was killing her. She looked up at him, eyes half closed. Leave me go on alone. Daniel's voice broke. Not a chance. He carried her the final mile. As the sun dipped again, they reached the edge of a cliff, and therein the distance was the old beacon tower, tall, rusted, but standing. Daniel smiled through his cracked lips. We made it. Daniel kicked open the rusty door of the old beacon tower. Dust flew in every direction, and the stale air smelled of metal and age. Inside it was dark, cold, but safe for now. He gently laid Erin on the floor. Her silver blue skin now pale like ash. Her breaths were short and shaky. Her body trembled even while unconscious. The device on her wrist pulsed like a heartbeat, fast, erratic, bright red. 7%, 98%. Daniel pulled out a battery pack from his bag and forced it into the beacon's ancient power slot. It sparked, hummed, and a small screen lit up. System rebooting. Please wait. No time to wait. Outside thunder cracked, but it wasn't just thunder. Daniel heard a second sound. Quieter, colder, calculated. A footstep, then another. He turned fast, weapon drawn. A figure stood at the edge of the cliff, dark against the red sky, tall, armored, a shadow from Erin's past. Erin, we found you, the voice called out, smooth, sharp. Not human. Daniel stepped forward. You're not taking her. The figure walked slowly. You don't understand what she carries. That device doesn't just expose truth, it destroys order. Daniel raised his weapon. Truth deserves to be free. The figure stopped, a long pause, then die with her. Suddenly the enemy fired a silent energy bolt, zipped through the air, striking Daniel's arm. He screamed and dropped his weapon. Blood spraying, pain shot through his body, but he didn't fall. He lunged forward, tackling the attacker. They rolled across the stone floor, fists slamming, limbs twisting. The enemy was Stronger, faster, but Daniel fought like a cornered animal because he wasn't fighting for himself, he was fighting for her. Inside, Erin stirred, her eyes fluttered open. Daniel. She saw blood, she saw him fighting, she saw the beacon now at 99% boot. She looked at her wrist, the device was burning into her skin, it would kill her if it reached full release. She had only two choices: let it finish and reveal everything, or shut it down forever. Tears formed in her eyes. I never asked for this, she whispered. The attacker pinned Daniel down, a blade pressed to his throat, but Daniel wasn't afraid, he just smiled through floody teeth. You came too late. The beacon behind them blinked. 100% transmission ready. The attacker spun around too slow. Daniel grabbed a broken pipe from the floor and rammed it through the enemy's chest. Armor sparks exploded. The figure let out a robotic screech and fell backward dead. Daniel collapsed beside him, coughing hard. Erin crawled toward the beacon with the last of her strength. The device on her wrist now displayed a final question: upload data. Why? And she looked at Daniel, bloody, breathing hard. If I say yes, they will come. More enemies, maybe. War. Daniel nodded slowly. But people will know you'll be more than forgotten. Tears ran down her cheeks. But I will die. Daniel dragged himself to her side. He touched her hand gently. Then I'll hold you until the end. She pressed yes. The device glowed white hot. Light flooded the room. The beacon tower shook as data flowed into the sky, carried across satellites into the void of space. Truth finally unleashed. As the light faded, Erin lay still, her body limp, her breathing gone. Daniel held her close, his own blood soaking into the ground. He whispered softly, broken, you weren't forgotten, not anymore. But then her fingers twitched, a spark, a pulse. The device on her wrist gave one last surge of light, then turned blue. Her eyes opened barely. Still here. Daniel laughed, tears in his eyes. You stubborn alien girl. The stars were brighter now, not because the sky had cleared, but because the beacon tower, silent for years, was alive. Its signal had gone out across the galaxy. The truth was no longer a secret. Daniel sat against the cold wall of the tower, holding Erin close in his arms. Her body was still, but her heart just barely was beating again. The device on her wrist was dead now, its light gone, its purpose complete. Daniel smiled faintly, though blood still dried on his face. You're a legend now, Erin, she whispered weakly, eyes half open. I just wanted to be a person. Outside in the distance, engines roared, bright beams of light danced across the clouds. A ship, this time not hostile, descended slowly toward the tower ruins. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Human vessel, but is it friend or enemy? He gripped his weapon. He didn't trust anyone anymore, not after what they'd been through, not after seeing what some were willing to do just to hide the truth. The ship landed gently, dust flew everywhere. The side hatch hissed open, and then a woman in a gray uniform stepped out, calm hands raised. Her team followed, unarmed. Medical drones floated behind them. She spoke through a loudspeaker. We received the broadcast. You're not under arrest, you're under protection. Daniel didn't move. Swear it. The woman paused, then placed her hand over her chest. I swear it by the Galactic Accord, no harm will come to her. Daniel looked down at Erin. She looked up at him. I can't run anymore, she said, but I don't want to hide. He squeezed her hand gently, then we walked into the light together. They stepped outside as the med team rushed toward them. Erin was lifted gently onto a hover stretcher. Daniel followed, limping but alive. As the ship doors closed behind them, the captain approached Daniel again. We've confirmed the transmission, the data real, untouched. Your names are spreading fast. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Heroes, the woman smiled faintly, to some, to others troublemakers. He chuckled. That sounds about right. 2 days later, inside a clean medical facility orbiting neutral space, Erin sat upright for the first time since the tower. Her skin had regained its glow, her eyes still soft, still cautious, looked out the window at Earth in the distance. Daniel entered the room, his arm in a sling, a small smile on his face. Doctor says you're going to live. Erin nodded. The real question is how. He tilted his head. She continued, I have no people anymore, no planet, just you. Where do I belong now? Daniel pulled up a chair beside her. Right here. With us, the ones who believe truth is worth bleeding for. She reached for his hand, and this time he didn't let go. Meanwhile, across the stars, the transmission had changed everything. Empires trembled, alliances cracked, some races demanded war, others called for peace. But for the first time, humanity wasn't underestimated. They were understood. They weren't monsters, they were mirrors, brave, flawed, fierce, just like everyone else. And the girl who had been left to die was now the face of truth. Final scene. Erin stood before a galactic council, tall, healed, and no longer afraid. Beside her stood Daniel. She spoke clearly, I am Erin. I was thrown away, abandoned, nearly erased, but I survived because one human saw me, not As a threat but as someone worth saving, she looked around the room at leaders. Warriors, skeptics, you can fight the truth or you can face it, but you will never bury it again. The chamber was silent, and then a single voice clapped, followed by another and another.